rather than trying to change the world, as you say, change one person just by leading an example, and then they will become that version, and then someone will see that. Now there's a line of 3, and then they will see that, and there's a line of 4. Before you know it, when the whole village has followed the new narrative, other villages will see that. And it's like COVID. One case becomes the whole fucking world.
This example of perfectionism, anger issues, this avoidance, people pleasing, like procrastinate. Like there's so many things to work on. And the thing is, the beautiful thing is that you do have control over all these things. Like you have control over your own emotions. You have control over your inner state. Sometimes it seems like, okay, that person said something and that made me really angry and that's totally their fault. It's not at all like that. I mean, your response is your responsibility, right? Everything that happens within you, once you do take responsibility for that, then that's taking your power back. Like if somebody else has this remote control to your emotions, like, okay, well, if I push this button, they're going to be angry. If I push that button, they're happy. And if I push this third button, then they're depressed. I mean, where is your autonomy? Like, who are you at that point?
I also went to the gym before and I did legs. Now, I never used to do legs because I thought, what's the point? And then I understood about how important legs are, and it builds testosterone for the rest of your body to be able to lift weights. And then after I did legs, which I exerted myself on, I then did the arm machine, the shoulder press, and I was exhausted. But I went in there to do 2 different exercises, the shoulder and then the pectoral machine. I felt lightheaded and I felt really tired. And rather than sticking to my plan of I wanted to do 2, I listened to my body and it says, no, I've had enough. So I have just come back from the spa and I did a deep meditation, and I also went to the gym before and I did legs. Now, I never used to do legs because I thought, what's the point? And then I understood about how important legs are, and it builds testosterone for the rest of your body to be able to lift weights. And then after I did legs, which I exerted myself on, I then did the arm machine, the shoulder press, and I was exhausted. But I went in there to do 2 different exercises, the shoulder and then the pectoral machine. I felt lightheaded and I felt really tired. And rather than sticking to my plan of I wanted to do 2, I listened to my body and it says, no, I've had enough. And I think a lot of people, we are so hard on ourselves to continue doing what we said we were going to do because it's seen as weak to ourselves if we don't do it, where we're just on this constant battle and journey of trying to do something because we feel we have to. But actually, we should be listening to our body. The body tells us everything. And if we listen to our body more, we wouldn't have all this exhaustion mentally and physically. And it's okay not to do something when you say you're going to do it, or if you wanted to go to the gym and then you don't feel the need. Obviously, if you have a reason, if there's no reason not to, like watching Netflix is not a reason not to go. But if you're exhausted because you were cutting the grass or looking after the kids or cooking dinner or clearing out the garage, that's a legitimate reason. And listening to your body when it says no, that's what we should be doing. We don't question why. There's no, oh, well, why do I feel tired or like I don't want to do the other machine I wanted to do? Just listen to your body. If it wants to do it, it will do it. And if it doesn't, it won't. And if you don't listen to it, you will have a collapse and exhaustion down the line. It is like this. It's coming. If you don't give yourself the time to rest when you need it, something is coming and you're just pushing the ball down the path.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I see this so much as a yoga instructor. People listen to their minds all the time, right? But the mind's desires are endless, right? You can want to eat something and keep on eating and eating and eating and eventually feel sick. The thing here to take away is that the body's capacity is limited, but the mind's desires are unlimited. And so there is no way that you can ever satiate the mind entirely. And so, yeah, I mean, the body has a lot more wisdom than the mind. The mind has all these ideas and concepts and things that it wants and things that it likes and doesn't like, and all these things that really come out of nowhere, right? There's no basis for these things, but that's just the nature of the mind, and being able to recognize that, hey, I wanted to do a million things today and I only got through half of them because I'm tired. And then letting yourself rest is so important because, as you said, this leads to nervous breakdown. This is what leads to imbalance. And this is what leads to a lot of other things, right? Stress buildup and you're not being able to function, and I don't know, blowing up at your kids or at work or at school or whatever it is, right? This just leads to more problems. I mean, it's important to tune in, and I think that the key to tuning in is tuning down the noise from the outside world. Like, there's so much being thrown at us today, right? Like, we consume so much. Think about it. In like 10 minutes on Instagram, going through reels, like how many reels do you go through in 10 minutes? Let's be real, at over 100, maybe 200. That's a lot of information to process, and that's a lot of things that the world is telling you: do this, you should look this way, you should do that, you should buy all these things, and you should eat like this, and you should go to these places. And like, all these things just create this unnecessary noise in the mind. This is the noise that keeps you away from the inherent wisdom of your body, and this is why it's so important to have these detox times, right? Like, turn off your phone before bed. Like, there's a reason that they say this, right? The things that you go to sleep thinking about, you're going to be thinking about them in the morning as well. So it's better that you think about nice things, think about like calming things that don't set your nervous system on fire. This is so key today. It's such a simple thing and so important.
Yeah, so our brain is consuming so much stimulation: good, bad, nervous, anxiousness, happiness, surprise, excitement, depression, in literally 5 minutes. From all this information on Instagram on a reel, we'd have all this information where our nervous system's sad from a sad video to excited for a really cool video that we like. We're not supposed to be experiencing all these emotions in such a short amount of time. We're not supposed to see so much information at one time. In the animal kingdom, we'd just be eating our grass and enjoying the moment, and then we'll be anxious when there's a lion. There's just two emotions, kind of fear, happiness, sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system, whatever. And I do catch myself sometimes when I'm go on my phone to reply to a message, for example, like yourself, and then there's a reel, and then you just watch it, and before you know it, 5 minutes it disappeared. And I've set up notifications on my Instagram, which is to remind me every 5 minutes, pops up saying, have you spent too much time on here? So even though I don't really spend much time anyway, the fact that it's come up after 5 minutes means that I would normally watch a video for, say, 6 minutes if that didn't come up. So it's like this constant reminder. Secondly, the solution to this is just to keep yourself balanced. So as you see, we get a nervous breakdown when we don't listen to our body. And the only way to counteract this is just to do what feels right in any given moment. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. It's like when we eat food and we suddenly get full up, we just suddenly stop. Like, you could leave 3 chips on the plate and it's like, well, can you finish those chips? And the answer is no, because I'm full up, right? So knowing that sure feeling of I'm full versus I'm not full, which translates to I don't want to do this versus I do want to do this, should be listened to. And as we know, when we rest, we're more productive. So just because you feel like you're progressing by going to the gym and doing the shoulder press and the pec press, because that's what I set out to do, because I want to get X amount of muscle mass by the end of the month, it's bollocks. Because if I'm stopping early because I'm exhausted, well, I'm not getting those growth anyway. Whereas if I gave myself the rest time, next time I go in the gym, I'm going to have more energy to lift more. So actually, it's benefiting me to give that time off, because next time I can lift more. So being calmer and politer to yourself when you don't want to do something versus having to just plow through is where real growth mentally and physically comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. Respecting and honoring your own boundaries and setting those boundaries with other people. It is so hard to say no to people, but it's so necessary. Right? I mean, nobody else can tell you what your body needs at any given time. This is so, so critical. And I'd actually say that, it was a lot easier to self-regulate back before the days of social media because we weren't bombarded so much. Like we didn't have a device that we carried around 24/7 and just looked at all the time. Anytime we felt a little socially anxious, we didn't have this thing to soothe ourselves with. Right? And so in that way before we had a lot less of this mental stimulation going on, and today I'd say it's actually necessary, not just a nice to have, but necessary to have a practice that helps you self-regulate your nervous system to, activate the parasympathetic nervous system so you can actually relax and rest, get deeper sleep, so that you can be more dynamic in your activity. Things like breath work and yoga and meditation are so critical here. I mean, I don't know how, when I look at my own life before and after meditation, I literally don't know how I survived back then. Like, it's like a completely different version of me that I don't even resonate with anymore because that person was always reacting to the world. There was no pause and response. It was always a reaction from a space of fight or flight. Like, I have to do this. Like, there was so much stress just bundled up into one little body and like being carried around from this place to that place to that place. And it's like, I really don't know how I survived. And I'm seeing people, people around me just talking bundles of stress. And it's like they can't sleep, they can't function, they don't even know what's happening in their own minds. It's like so many emotions are overwhelming them all the time. And it's like, just stop for a minute, give yourself that space, do something nice for yourself, go to a yoga class, go get a massage, go for a walk in nature, do something, but stop doing what you're doing.
Yeah, people, I feel like from experience, we're waiting for this feeling of, okay, now I can get the massage, now I can go for a walk, now I can spend money on go-karting. We're trying to get to this feeling of it feels right to now do it, and it doesn't come. It never comes because you're in this environment and pattern which you're not going to change, so that feeling's not going to come. So you've got two options: change your environment, change the pattern, or do the things that you want to do, which will now give you a comparison of feeling. So you'd have the feeling of this chaos from my environment, and then you'd have the feeling of massage, go-karting, walking in nature. Hopefully now you've got the comparison that will give you enough reason to change that environment and pattern. If you don't have the ability to change the environment and pattern, period. So again, it goes down to choosing things that make you feel good. And so many people, they're just in this loop of feeding the devil, and the devil just keeps coming back for more. And that is basically, if you're stressed, you're trying to get out of the stress. Your environment is the reason why you're stressed. You're not changing your environment, so you're trying to just fix things in your environment so the stress reduces, and then the stress comes back, and then you wake up and do the same shit again. It's almost like emails. You respond to emails, and the next day you've got more. It's not going to end, which means you've got to be able to manage your emails and enjoy life at the same time. So rather than just sitting there trying to filter through all the emails and then more comes in, fuck, I got to remove these. You accept that emails are going to come, but I'm also going to go massage and respond to emails afterwards. And that is something that I think a lot of people are becoming aware of, that this life isn't going to change anytime soon with all this device social media. So therefore, we have to find a way where we can befriend it. I've noticed a lot of youngsters actually, they are spending less time on their phones. So something is shifting where they're realizing that they're so unhappy at such a young age that they're just literally putting their phone down and talking to people. And then the more they talk to people, the more they realized, oh my God, this is actually great. I need my shitty phone. And now it's becoming like cool to not be on your phone, like it's cool to vape. Eventually, at some point, youngsters, because they're so aware at such a young age, I think they will naturally start to simply not vape. Because as kids feel so shit because of vaping, because they're so young and their bodies and brains haven't developed, they're going to start to deteriorate and they're not going to feel good. And because young people are easier to influence and young people are more in tune and connected to everything and themselves, they are more likely to be like, do you know what? I don't want to do it. I don't want to vape because I don't feel good. So when they have that comparison of, I don't want to vape because I don't feel good versus let's all vape, I don't want to fit in, and there's no feeling of I feel shit, that feeling of feeling shit versus feeling of fitting in is going to be so black and white that they're going to choose I don't feel nice fitting in because this is about fitting in, so I feel nice, but I don't feel nice and I'm fitting in, so I'm just going to choose myself and go home, thank you. And because everyone will feel that same, because they're all putting the same poison in their body, eventually people are going to be like, yeah, you know what, this is bollocks, why are we doing this? And then they'll stop, and then they won't be vaping, and then the whole generation that is now vaping simply won't vape. That's what I think.
You know what? It's a really interesting how the older generations have such set ideas, right? Like you have to do this and this has to be done in a certain way. And this is just how you live life. They become very stiff and rigid in their beliefs. And I think that this is what leads to a lot of the problems that we have in the world today. I mean, of course, like kids and, coming back to this example of vaping and doing all these things that aren't healthy because it's quote unquote cool. I mean, they get this from older generations, right? They're observing, they're watching like the media and social media and all the things. They're picking up these habits from their parents and their societies and all these things. And yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with what you're saying, that the younger generation is definitely at this stage, at the age that they're a lot more fluid in their belief systems. And so this is a great time to really show youngsters that it's okay to be different. You being different is what makes you special. Trying to fit in and being the exact same as everyone else is a really boring world, and it's really shitty too, because again, you don't get to express yourself. You don't get to express the love and the joy that you have inside you by choosing the colors that you're wearing, or choosing your habits, or allowing yourself to decompress and step away from the structures of the world. I mean, this is exactly what spirituality is, right? There's this idea that spirituality is this woo-woo, like this really ungrounded thing, but spirituality is finding a balance between doing things and just being, right? It's finding that balance and living life and moving forward, taking that middle path of like, okay, I am active in the world, I'm doing all the things that I'm supposed to be doing, I'm taking care of my parents, my kids, my house, my mortgage, my work, whatever, I'm doing all the things, but I'm at the same time, I'm taking care of myself, I'm connected to myself, I know why I'm here, I know my purpose in this world, and I know what I'm working toward. And when I need to, I can pause, I can go deep into meditation and get that deep rest. No matter if the times are good or bad, I am going to be grounded. And that's what spirituality is, right? It's going inward, it's healing, it's allowing yourself to be yourself. And it is really nice to see these trends starting to come up in society, that people are starting to question the norm. Like, why do we actually do this? Why am I doing that? Why am I stuck to my phone? Like, it's actually so much nicer to go play outside with the kids next door. Like, this is actually so much, it's nice to see this organically come back. And it is coming back because this is our nature. Our nature is to be joyful and happy and carefree and blissful, essentially. We're not made up of stress. We might be carrying stress, but that's a result of the life that we've created for ourselves. And we have the option at any time to let go of that stress.
Yeah, so what comes with being online all the time is, the depression and stuck in your bedroom, trying to find this dopamine, this happiness, which we know is not coming from your phone. What also comes with that is, rather than back in the day, you just have Madonna or Justin Bieber, not just Bieber, like Madonna, the Spice Girls to admire, where you basically just got, I want to be a singer. You now go on your phone and you've got, I could be a singer, I could be an interviewer, I could be a prankster, a joker, I could be somebody who drives cars, I can be a podcaster. There is now so much uniqueness online that if you're in your bedroom as a young person, you can see videos of a magician or somebody training a dog and then going on America's Got Talent. you are now getting inspired to be an individual. Because as you say, being a sheep is boring. And if you are somebody who's just craving an identity and you see somebody training a dog and doing flips, then you might go downstairs and get your dog and start training it, which wouldn't have happened if you didn't have a phone. And then if you think how everyone's also in their bedrooms when the youngsters doing the same thing, eventually at around the same time, because they would have all spent the same amount of time on their phone, one person's gonna start to feel so bad, and that they might also tell their friend, I feel really bad. Do you want to go out? And then their friend goes, okay. And then the other friend goes, what are you doing? Oh, we're just in the park. Oh, can I come? And then literally their friend's like, what are you doing tonight? Oh, I'm going out tonight. So now 4 people that were in their bedroom on their phone texting have now led, through example, everyone out into the park, which is what we used to do and should be doing. And because now they have experienced feeling of being outside in the park versus being on their phone, next time it's Thursday and they're on their phone, they're going to now be thinking, I wonder what that person's doing. Let's go out in the park because that felt amazing last week when we did this and did that. Before you know it, it's like every Wednesday, you just know that you're going to be in the park. So there's no person in their room on their phone on a Wednesday because they're in the park. And naturally, like vaping, we all follow what everyone else does. If everyone's vaping, they vape. If everyone is going to the park on a Wednesday, guess what? Everyone's going to want to go to the park on a Wednesday. And where are all these phones? Hopefully, sat at home or in your pocket, where you're having so much fun, you're not even thinking about your phone because the friends that you were on your phone to talk to, they're right in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about leading by example, right? We can't go around and tell people, well, you should do this and you should do that. I mean, we can, but it's not as effective as actually doing the thing that we want others to do. And so, yeah, I mean, we can influence to the best of our abilities, and just hope that people follow along, right? They come along, they come out, and they start to experience a different way of being. I mean, it's really sad. I know that there are some kids in my family who, like, their parents don't even let them go out. They're just so paranoid, or they're so caught up in their own things that it's easier for them to keep the kids at home and let the kids watch TV or be on their phones all the time. And it's like, well, this is so damaging to the kids themselves. Right? I mean, if anything, let them at least go out in the backyard to the front yard, play with the neighbors' kids. You know, you sit outside with your laptop if you need to work and stuff. I mean, it's just, it's a matter of priorities, maybe. You know, that work, as you said, you know, that work is always going to be there. You're never going to run out of things to do. There's always going to be work. It's just a matter of saying, okay, I'm done for today. I'm going to spend some time with my family and spend some time for myself to de-stress, to detox from all of this. And I think that this is also another factor for all the aggression that we have in the world today, is that people are they're taking on so much stress that, you know, that aggression that comes from that stress is being fed into the children, and then they grow up as angry kids, and it just, it spirals from there, right? It goes into their societies, their communities, goes into schools, and it just, you know, they grow up and do all these crazy things. It was just like this 13-year-old girl nearby just got raped like 2 nights ago, and it's like, I don't know, like, what kind of person sits and like, I don't know, like, where does that stuff come from? You have to really think about it, you know? And then coming into this issue of, to be honest, this has been kind of on my mind for a little while now, of how whistleblowers in today's society, like, just the way today's society is, it's the whistleblowers that get the short end of the stick, right? They're the people who get fired. They're the people who get ostracized. They're the people who get blamed and targeted for all of these things. And it's like, why though? Aren't we promoting a positive world? Don't we want to promote a positive, safe world for our kids and for the future generations? Or do we want it to continue in this way and get worse and worse and worse? I mean, it's something to really think about. And then there's another thing that it was a post that my sister-in-law had sent me, and it was about, oh, you know, look at this racism, and, you know, the police should do something about it. But it's like, no, you should do something about it. Every single person has has a responsibility to maintain the type of society that they want to live in. If you see something happening, it's your responsibility to respond to that in a way that promotes the type of society that you want. You can't keep putting the responsibility onto the governing body. Okay, yeah, sure. If it's their responsibility, then you call them and let them do their job. You can't just like make a video and then post it online. Oh, someone should do something about this. Like, what the hell is that? Like, what are you actually doing?
Yeah, so the reason why whistleblowers get the short end of the stick is because government, who are supposed to be protecting us, they're all doing shady things behind the scenes, whether it's pedophilia, whether it's bribery, whether it's involved with crime, whether it's breaking laws. You know how it goes, you know, young women and young men, all that type of crap. This happens, right? So if you were to promote whistleblowers, well, they're whistleblowers fucking themselves up. They write the rules. Whistleblowers would be whistleblowing them. So therefore, any whistleblower from the highest level to the bottom has to be destroyed. Because if you give power to whistleblowers, guess what? You're basically giving power to the people at the top who would whistleblow about what's really going on. And then they will get taken down and they run the world. They own the world. And they would lose their power and their money and their fortune and their fame, which is why it's not as easy of just doing the right thing. Because when you understand how the world works, nothing's going to come from it, because somewhere, someone is going to be affected by the right thing, and they've got the ability to shut it down. So that's why whistleblowers, for example, even though it's the truth, no one cares about the truth. People just care about what they want, and people at the top just want to continue what they want and what they're doing. So again, localize things. If someone in your area has been racist to somebody, help them understand why they are like that. Like, why are you racist to that person? Help me understand why. Did somebody do something to you that was of color? Tell me why. Understand them. Give them time to see both sides. And then you might change them. And then that local environment of that racism won't exist. As opposed to, as you say, filming it, put it online, the police should be doing something about it. No. If you don't like something in your area of what should be no more than 300 people in your tribe, do something about it. Don't just wait for someone else to come along. That's not being responsible for your life and expecting someone else to come and fix your shit. And no one is coming to come and fix your shit. Again, victim mindset.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much to this, right? There's so many layers. And looking at back in like when I was an engineer, I used to think about this. Like, I want to do something impactful. I want to do something impactful. Like, I want to make the world a better place, but I really couldn't pinpoint where it was that I should be doing this. Where should I start? And I used to sit on Reddit and just go through the world news section. Like, okay, what's happening? Like, what can I do? And every single avenue that I found, I was like, well, people are already doing this and they're not very successful. And then eventually it took me down this path of yoga. Like, I did that whole 180 turn and I left that job and I went down this path. And the answer eventually surfaced is exactly what you said, right? It's starting with the individual. When you change the individual, you can change society. And to change the individual, it's not about throwing them in jail or whatever. It's more about helping that person rehabilitate, helping that person heal. They obviously had some sort of trauma that happened to them when they were young that were making them be a certain way. I mean, I believe that everyone at our core, like, we're all good people, right? Like, we don't set out in the morning with the intention of like, I'm going to screw this person over. I'm going to go out and I'm going to trip an old lady. Like, nobody goes out with this intention, right? It just, I think that it's coming back to that point that we were speaking about earlier. It's just the stress of the way that the world is right now. It's maybe, maybe someone had something like this happen to them when they were younger and they didn't feel safe enough to talk about it, and they carried that stress with them their entire lives, and that is causing them to do all of these things, right? Maybe they continue that pattern. It's like looking at generational trauma, right? That's exactly what it is. I mean, you have an abusive family, then your kids also have abusive families, and you have an abusive family, you carry that on to your kids, and then your kids will carry that on to their kids, and it continues down the cycle because that's what they've learned. They've learned that to deal with stress, you have to go and hit someone, right? And you hit whoever's nearest to you, which is generally your partner or your kids or whatever it is, right? And breaking that cycle, yeah, definitely this is not the easiest thing to do, but it is the most effective, at least in this search of mine where I was trying to find this best way to make a difference. It was this is the answer, is that if each of us were to take some time to de-stress, to unplug from the world and really tune into ourselves and what our body's saying, what our mind is saying, what is actually happening inside of us, where are these emotions coming from, where are they stemming from, these feelings of hurt and pain and fear and anger, like what is behind all of that, sitting with that and letting it come to the surface and letting it come out. And obviously you need a safe space to do this. You need a coach, or you need someone who is versed, who's comfortable with these spaces and who can hold the space for you. This is why this is so key, because yes, you're helping yourself, but you're also helping make your surroundings that much better.
Yeah, so when I started my podcast, I had so much information and wisdom that I just needed to get out and share to the world. And I'd explode, and I'd almost be telling people that this is what you need to do because it worked for me. And over the time, I've learned the most powerful thing is leading an example. People will take away what they are seeking, and there's no wrong or right. It's just, does it work for you? If it does, great. If I've got a buffet of food and you don't like that bit of food, but you like that, great. I've given you a choice. So now I've learned to lead an example and live my life in the most best way for me, which I would say is what most humans would ideally want to do also, which is be in your body, be in harmony with your environment, know how to love, receive love, just all the basic human shit that's just forgotten. And by doing that, people will see the things in themselves that they don't like. For example, if I'm in the jacuzzi meditating, often I will have people walk out. Why? Because seeing someone at such peace triggers off how not at peace that person is. And it becomes so uncomfortable how you've got this person just sat there, eyes closed, back up straight, not moving, meditating. Eventually you'll be like, so it starts off, why is he doing that? Oh, must he meditating? Oh, we're still doing that. Why is he doing that? God, he's been here a while. God, he's not even moved. He looks so peaceful. And eventually it turns on yourself. I'm not peaceful. Why can't I do that? I wish I could do that. Why can't you do that? Fuck, why is he still doing that? I've got to fucking go. I can't take this. Because you're literally seeing parts of yourself that you don't like. Secondly to that is if somebody's leading an example, for example, someone in there wants to get into meditation or meditates, but only for 3 minutes, seeing me just sit there for half an hour, not moving like a corpse, will inspire you to try and do half an hour. And all I did was just be me. So by me just talking about my brain, which is just what the podcast is about, people will see what they want and will take it. And it will also trigger off things that they will hopefully change, or the triggers will keep coming until they change. And all I did was lead an example and be me, rather than trying to change the world. As you say, change one person just by leading an example, and then they will become that version, and then someone will see that. Now there's a line of 3, and then they will see that, and there's a line of 4. Before you know it, when the whole village has followed the new narrative, other villages will see that. And it's like COVID. One case becomes the whole fucking world. Whereas what people try and do, like I did, is try and save the whole world and come back. And it's like, why can't I just be happy saving 20 people that I can see every day? Why do I need to save humans' lives I can't even see that are just on a screen? It makes no sense. And that's when you realize to come home and everything comes back to just come home. Get out your head, expansion, whole, save the world, own the world, make as much money as you can. A steak's going to be a steak. A drink's a drink. Like, how much money do you need to buy a steak, which is still 20, 30 quid? Come home.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The best thing that you could do for yourself, for your family, for the world is to reconnect with yourself. Find that peace within yourself, find that space within yourself, and then allow others to do the same thing, right? Yeah, so powerful. I feel like we need a moment of silence for this to just let it sink in for people.
Okay, minute silence. Minute silence starting from now.
Yeah.
1 minute silence for Queen Elizabeth, who passed away. But speaking of stability, right? There has been a shift in the UK, and now the Queen's died. You don't realize the importance of having, say, a grandfather in a big family of 4 children, and then their 3 children each. So now you've got, 15 children or 15 grandchildren, and you've got 4 children. When a big pillar like that dies, the whole family does change, because now the masculine is not there. The healthy masculine isn't there. Naturally, the next healthy masculine will rise, which is most likely the older brother of the kids. That balance is different, right? If he didn't have good relationships with his siblings, he might do something which fucks them over, because something changes. You essentially become your father that passed away, and you see things differently. You might not see everyone as equal anymore. You might see your siblings as, I'm better than them. They are below me because I'm now above, and I'm their head. I'm making the decisions of grandma's will, the wife of the husband that passed away. The the wife of the, yeah. But then things change. So now, because of the stability has changed, everything changes. Christmases change. Birthdays change. Barbecues change. Everyone's not as connected and family orientated anymore. Because one person might not like what the brother's doing, they might not come to the Christmas party. So now you've got 4 family members not at the party anymore. The energy changes, the environment changes. So having stability is so important that you only realize when it's gone what it was doing. And when the Queen died, people just changed, because the Queen has been around for 100 years. Most countries are formed based on her monarchy and, government, how governments are run. And when that person dies, everything changes. Like when Martin Luther King died, such a powerful person. You shift, like Michael Jackson died. Again, such an influential person. Things change. But if you are in control of yourself and what's around you, it doesn't matter what the next village is doing, but based on the stability change, because you've got your own stable village and environment around you. Hence why it's so important just to focus on yourself and what's there in front of you, and not what's going on over there. Because if we look at everyone else, how the UK is becoming like just different because the Queen's died, then you feel like, yeah, everything's going to shit. But if you come outside your door and you look at all your neighbours, they're fine. The Queen's not affecting them in any way. And I have to live with and see every day. So I don't care what's happening down the road and how the Queen has affected them, because they haven't got stability in their actual family. So they look for external stability with leaders. I just focus on my neighborhood. As long as they're okay and they're stable, that's all good. If everyone has the same approach and just puts themselves first and their immediate local surroundings, if everyone does that, then collectively, everyone is going to be happy and content and back at home within themselves. And you just got to change a few.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's a lot of pressure to put on ourselves if we say that, okay, I want to change the world. It's a great sentiment, right? It's a good thing to want to do, but at the same time, it's a lot of pressure. Just like this pressure of perfection. I mean, when you say I want to change the world and you make your decisions based on that, it's really like, where do you even start? There's so many things happening in the world, and exactly, the place you have to start is yourself, your immediate surroundings. And then you can, when you do tackle all of these issues within yourself, I mean, there's so many things that can come up, right? Just this example of perfectionism, anger issues, this avoidance, people pleasing, like procrastinate. Like there's so many things to work on. And the thing is, the beautiful thing is that you do have control over all these things, or you have control over your own emotions. You have control over your inner state. Sometimes it seems like, okay, that person said something and that made me really angry, and that's totally their fault. It's not at all like that. I mean, your response is your responsibility, right? Everything that happens within you, once you do take responsibility for that, then that's taking your power back. Like if somebody else has this remote control to your emotions, like, okay, well, if I push this button, they're going to be angry. If I push that button, they're happy. And if I push this third button, then they're depressed. I mean, where is your autonomy? Like, who are you at that point? You're not even, I mean, I don't know, like, can you really call yourself an adult at that point? Like, if you need to be able to hold your own regardless of what happens. I mean, there are a lot of things that happen in life. And yes, when you look at it in one way, life is this beautiful celebration. But at the same time, there are a lot of things. We go through a lot of karma in our lives, right? We're clearing that board, we're balancing those karmic books. And so we are destined to go through a lot of things. And if you're not able to hold that balance within yourself, then life is going to be a really tough journey for you. You're going to be tossed around a lot. And coming back once again to self-regulation, to being able to regulate your own emotions, and how learning this is so essential. I think it's at the point where it needs to be taught in schools. I mean, this is a life skill that we actually need. Let's let go of integration and all of that stuff, and let's look at, in the mathematical sense, let's look at how to regulate our minds and our emotions. This is something that we will need day in and day out.
Right. Anything you want to promote or plug before we finish?
Yeah, actually, on that note, I have a free PDF called How to Overcome Stress and Anxiety in 5 Minutes. It's a free guide. It comes with a bonus guided audio that will bring you back to a space of stillness and equanimity.
Okay. And if you had one day left to live, what is the one thing that you would tell the rest of the world? Or your local village?
Life is a celebration. Don't be so serious about it.
Thanks for listening. If you like this episode, please remember to subscribe, turn the bell notifications on, like the episode, and comment below. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's YesKingOliver. Take a look at the other videos to your side. And if you just want to listen to this podcast, you can do so on Apple and Spotify and most other platforms by going to talkwitholiver.com.